Charlie Munger, the legendary billionaire investor and vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, used to say something that sounds simple but hits hard once you understand it. The first $100,000 is the hardest. And it's not just him. Ask almost anyone who's built serious wealth and you'll hear the same thing. The first $100,000 takes forever. The first million feels impossible. But then something strange happens. Once you reach $100,000, the next $100,000 comes faster, then $300,000, then $500,000. And once you hit $1 million, the second million often shows up in a fraction of the time. That raises an obvious question. Why does wealth seem to accelerate? And more importantly, how can you speed up the hardest phase so you become wealthy years sooner? Let's break it down. Why the first $100,000 is so difficult. The biggest obstacle most people face isn't intelligence, it's getting started. Investing always feels like a later problem. People say, I'll invest when I make more money, when things settle down, when life gets less busy. But that logic is backwards. Saying you'll invest once you have more money is like saying you'll add wood to a fire after it starts producing heat. You don't invest because you're rich, you invest because you want to become rich. Another excuse is risk. Everyone knows someone who avoids investing entirely because the market is risky, so they do nothing. But doing nothing is also a risk, just a quieter one. The first $100,000 feels overwhelming because the finish line is far away and early progress is painfully slow. Most of the money at this stage has to come directly from you. There's no magic yet, no momentum, no snowball, just discipline. When compounding finally starts working. In the early stages, investment returns barely feel real. If you invest $5,000 and earn 10%, that's only $500 in a year. You could make that with a few extra shifts at work. It feels insignificant, but something changes once your portfolio grows. A $100,000 portfolio earning 10% makes $10,000 per year. That's no longer invisible. At $1 million, that same return is $100,000 per year. Now the growth is doing real work for you. This is when people say they can finally feel compounding. The snowball starts rolling, and it doesn't just roll faster, it pulls you forward with it. Progress becomes motivating instead of discouraging, and motivation speeds everything up. How money changes the way you think. Once your wealth reaches a meaningful level, your behavior starts to change. You become more intentional. Spending $100 on something unnecessary suddenly feels different, not because you're cheap, but because you understand opportunity cost. That $100 isn't just dinner, it's future growth. Spend it once and it's gone. Invest it and it keeps rewarding you year after year. It's not about that one $100 purchase, it's about building the habit of choosing long-term rewards over short-term comfort. That habit is what creates wealth. Why money creates opportunities. Having savings gives you options, and options are power. When you have $100,000 saved, doors open that are closed to someone living paycheck to paycheck. You can take a job with higher upside but less stability. You can start a business without panicking. You can invest in opportunities others can't afford to touch. Imagine your job pays $50,000 per year. Now, an opportunity appears that could pay $100,000, but it's commission-based. If you need every paycheck to survive, you can't take that risk. But with savings, that risk becomes reasonable. Money doesn't just grow, it unlocks leverage. Why wealth accelerates. As your net worth grows, you can also afford to take smarter risks. You can invest in promising ideas without risking everything. You can say yes to opportunities without fear of financial ruin. Someone with very little money can't afford mistakes. Someone with savings can. That's why wealth compounds in more ways than just investment returns. It compounds through better decisions, better opportunities, better risk management. How to reach the first $100,000 faster. If you're still working towards that first milestone, the strategy is simple but not easy. Most of the money will have to come from your income, not investments. That means you must increase how much you earn and increase how much you save. This could mean working extra hours temporarily, taking a second job, starting a side business, cutting unnecessary expenses. Be especially careful with large recurring costs, like expensive car payments. These are silent wealth killers that keep people stuck for decades. This phase is temporary. Once you build momentum, it gets easier. What happens after $100,000? By the time you reach $100,000, something important has already happened. You've built the habits. You know how to earn more. You know how to save consistently. You know how to invest through market ups and downs. And from that point on, compounding starts doing more of the work. That's why Charlie Munger said you can ease off the gas after the first $100,000, not because the journey is over, but because the engine is finally running. Final thought. If you're stressed because your net worth feels like it's growing slowly, remember this: it's supposed to be hard at the beginning. That's not failure, that's the process. And once you break through, wealth becomes faster, more enjoyable, and far more rewarding. The hardest part is starting, and the most important milestone is the first one.
So, to quickly recap, the first $100,000 is always the hardest because it's mostly built from your own effort. But once you reach it, compounding starts doing most of the work for you. Your savings give you options, the ability to take risks, pursue opportunities, or invest in things you couldn't touch before. And the more disciplined you are with saving and investing, the faster your wealth begins to grow. Even if you're still far from that milestone, the key is to start now. Automate your savings, track your progress, and consistently put money to work. Over time, these small, steady steps compound into momentum, and momentum is what makes the next milestones feel easier and faster. If you found this video helpful, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you never miss a new video breaking down practical strategies to grow your wealth, make better financial decisions, and put your money to work for you. And if you want more, check out our playlist on investing and money mindset. It's packed with tips that can accelerate your journey toward financial freedom. Remember, the hardest part is starting. Once you do, everything else begins to snowball.